Good evening and welcome to this Tuesday, May 6, 2014 meeting of the Raymore Planning and Zoning Commission. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll call roll, and please remember to make sure your microphone is on. Commissioner Anderson.
Present.
Commissioner Burke.
Present.
Commissioner Crane.
Present.
Commissioner Fizer.
Present.
Commissioner Grodzki. Commissioner Hanner. Commissioner Meiske.
Present.
Mayor Kirchhoff.
Present.
And Commissioner Faulkner is present. We do have a quorum. We have no personal appearances scheduled this evening. One item on the consent agenda, which is acceptance of minutes from our April 15th, 2014 meeting. And unless any of the other commissioners have a concern, I would entertain a motion either to accept the consent agenda as presented or to accept the minutes of the April 15th, 2014 meeting as presented.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Anderson.
move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Anderson, second by Commissioner Meiske to accept, I'm sorry, which was that? Consent agenda?
Yes.
To accept consent agenda as presented. All those in favor, raise a hand, please. 7 in favor, and none opposed, no abstentions. And we have nothing this evening under old business, so we will move right ahead to our case under new business, case 14013, the Growth Management Plan Annual Review and Report. This case does require a public hearing. And Mr. Catterat, if you'd like to present the case.
Yes, sir. Thank you. This evening, case before you is the first annual review of our adopted growth management plan. When the commission adopted the current growth management plan in March of 2013, one of the provisions in the plan that we inserted was for the commission to commence a formal annual review process. It's something that under the old growth management plan we had gotten in the habit of doing periodic reviews, but we implemented the requirement that on April 1st of each year that the Community Development Department would submit a report to the commission for your review and consideration to highlight some of the activities that occurred over the previous year. The GMP indicates the very specific items that have to be included in the document. I won't go through each one of those specifically, but the annual review does break down each one of those topics that we were to report on, and I just will briefly go through those items. A couple of notes: the annual report, it is required to be available to the public prior to the commission's hearing, which we made it available on the website on April 8th, so approximately 1 month before your public hearing, the public had access to it. We also, of course, did the legal notice publication in the Journal, and we are holding the public hearing this evening. I have not had any comments regarding the document made to myself from the public. What would happen based upon your review this evening, if there are any revisions that we need to be made, you'll have full authority to make any revisions, whether it's to the document or any of the maps that you see fit. You have the authority to do that this evening. Going through the report, there is a section on assessment of activity. This particular part of the report talks about some of the efforts that the department and commission made over the year regarding our ability to implement some of the goals within the plan. And some of the specific goals we worked on dealt with the building design standards, community connectivity, dealing with social connectivity of residents, as well as some of the activities of our economic development department. One of the goals that was identified, action steps as part of the goals, was to do commence an annual review of our property maintenance code, which we have done that. We also are currently working on one of the action steps dealing with coming up with an existing land use inventory for the city, so we know exactly how the land in the city is being utilized. That will help us to determine if we have adequate amount of land area available for, let's say, for commercial development. Do we have too much land area? Do we not have enough? What kind of percentages of land area do we want to have available for single family versus multifamily? In order to come up with those discussions, we need to know what we have. And so we have done quite a bit of work on that. And our idea with that particular item would be to do a work session with the commission and present our findings of that study. So that'll be coming up sometime during the summer. A couple other activities that have occurred directly dealing with our goals. Some of the work of the park board deals with our community connectivity goals. We're working towards we have a master plan now for the Hawk Ridge Park. The park board's also working on a trails master plan, which was identified in our GMP. The city council and the park board are working together on a survey and study regarding a future civic center, sometimes referred to as a community center, but we are currently working on getting a survey out to residents regarding that particular project. And certainly the efforts of the police department and some of the programs they have, including the police academy and the neighborhood watch programs, are all help us to meet the goal, quality neighborhood goal of maintaining a safe and secure city. But quite a bit of action has occurred on the 19 goal statements we have in the GMP. As well as you will find that some of the specific goal statements of the GMP are actually contained in the city council vision and goals. So when city council went through their extensive visioning and goal setting process, they did include or incorporate several of the goals from the GMP directly into their document, and I've identified those in the report. Staff, we do not currently feel there's any gaps within the plan. We don't think there's anything that specifically needs to be addressed over the next year. A couple of updates on other plants should occur. As I mentioned, the Hawk Ridge Park Master Plan can now be incorporated into the park's overall master plan. There's also been some discussion with the Transportation Master Plan that we may need to look at updating the Transportation Master Plan map dealing with Dean Avenue and the realignment of Dean Avenue. So we'll be working on that particular item over the next year, trying to again see if there's any other changes to the transportation plan that would need to be done. But the minor realignment of Dean Avenue between Cass Parkway and 195th Street is one item we've identified. Another area that maybe should be looked at as well is the commercial area that we have available. We have a high percentage of undeveloped commercial land available, but what we don't currently have is leasable commercial space. Where we really do have very limited commercial space available, existing building space available specifically for mid-sized tenants. Our older shopping centers, Willow Wind, and a little bit of the Pine Street Center, they have some of the smaller tenant spaces, 1,500 square foot to 2,400 square foot available, but we don't have any location for mid-sized tenants looking to locate in Raymore. It's something that certainly the economic development director and myself have discussions on and trying to figure out, is there a way to try to encourage some creation of some leasable space available. So it is something worthy of looking at over the next year. It's certainly an issue that we deem relevant to look at. And then towards the end of the document, we do have some recommendations on action on the plan in the following or the next 12 to 24 months. We want to incorporate the trail, the master plan that's currently being worked on, into our open space and linkage plan. Again, as I mentioned, we want to update the street classification map of the transportation master plan, and that's for Dean Avenue. We want to include an existing land use plan map and update the undeveloped land use page in the GMP. So once we finalize that document and go to a work session with the commission, our end goal would be to actually incorporate that existing land use map into our GMP. And as well as updating some of the demographics information of the GMP to reflect the most current data available. The data that we have in the current GMP is 2010, and the Census Bureau each year comes out with updated information, so we would look to incorporate some of that information. We are due for an updated report from the Census Bureau this month. So that's why it wasn't available for discussion tonight. We don't have all that information yet. Future work products that at least city staff will be working on. I mentioned the city land use ratio. Again, that comes from our existing land use plan document. Trying to establish the appropriate land use ratio for the city, how much commercial, residential, single family, multifamily should we have, land area available. The Trails Master Plan that I've already mentioned. And staff has just commenced work looking at adopting best management practices for stormwater runoff. This is somewhat of a directive from Environmental Protection Agency and the Missouri DNR, where the city will need to be looking at requiring new commercial industrial development in the city to incorporate some best management practices in the site design. We believe some of these practices would be able to be accomplished in existing areas of a site where perhaps we already have a landscaping requirement, for example, a perimeter of the site. So if we take that landscaping requirement where they can incorporate some best management practices within that, they can meet that requirement and still meet our landscape requirement. So we're trying to be cognizant of any impacts this kind of requirement would have on commercial development. And we believe that some of the methods that will be available will be able to be incorporated in our commercial development. So it's something staff has just commenced work on. So it's a project between the engineering staff and community development staff, and I'm certain you'll be having discussions on that in the future. But those are the kind of the three main work products that I see over the next year from staff regarding the GMP. The only item that I would really recommend consideration this evening for the commission to consider is we have one map within our growth management plan that could be updated. It's just a new version of the map that clarifies the process for connections to the Raymore Peculiar School District and their interceptor sewer district that's identified on our sewer district map. So we changed some of the language on that particular map, thought it was a little bit more clear in what the requirements were if you live within that area to connect to that sewer, and thought that new map should be incorporated into the GMP. So that is the only recommendation that staff has regarding the current text or maps of the GMP, is to update that sewer allocation map. Again, the entire document, any of the maps are up for your review and discussion this evening. So that was a quick summary, but I believe that's all I had planned on covering this evening.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Carteret, and of course, we can always ask questions. So let me open the public hearing on case 14013, Growth Management Plan Annual Review and Report. And anyone who wishes to speak, please come forward to the podium. And seeing no one, close the public hearing and open the floor for discussion by the commission. Anyone have questions, comments, suggestions, criticisms? Please bring them up.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
I have a
Commissioner
question.
Meiske.
Let me think about this. So what you're suggesting is to include this map in the GMP. However, as the data comes in, the demographics and stuff like that, are we gonna also include that in here? I mean, is this something that we should do one time and wait a couple of months, or is this something that we're gonna piecemeal throughout the year? I hate to put you on the spot.
No, I would recommend,
question.
it's a recommendation of staff that we do
Well, let me-
include the new sewer district map this evening in the
Right.
GMP, so I'll automatically, if that's approved, I would include that immediately within the document. And then depending upon the data that we get back to the Census Bureau, we can come back to you in the future
Okay.
for that
I was
change.
just, now you're gonna print new books, right, with that map in it?
Yes,
So
the
you can hand
book-
out. I was just
correct.
thinking about the cost of, you know, if we do something tonight and then 3 weeks from now, or, 3 months from now, we do something else, we have to print all new books.
We will,
So-
of course, we do print them in-house. The cost is somewhat minimal. We could wait to distribute the copies to the commission depending upon what changes in the data that we see from the Census Bureau. But certainly the document that we have online, the one that's available to those that are needing to
Right.
look at it, we want to have the most up-to-date information on.
Okay,
So that's
Right.
why I recommend that change this evening.
okay, that's fine.
And I for one will agree, I'm not big on killing trees, but I think as long as we know that the online copy is up to date,
Okay,
I don't know that we'd necessarily need to have every incremental update reprinted for our use, but continuing Commissioner Meiski's question, Mr. Carteret, do you actually, I guess you don't have to do a press run of 50 or 100, you can print them on demand if a developer comes in?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
think the online copy really needs to be the up-to-date. You know, I don't know that we want to do it, but we could even put a disclaimer here that printed copy may not be current. Please refer to online copy for latest information. I've seen too many weasel words, I suppose. Mr. Zert?
My only thought is, the online copy obviously is the best route to go for you as far as providing the updated information. I don't know that I'd include the caveat at the bottom that the information in the printed is not necessarily the most up to date. Jim, do you process these on an as per request type of basis for individuals that might come in from the community?
We do. We keep a couple of printed copies available in case somebody wants to pick them up. There's not that high of a volume.
There's no
so-
mass run for these at the end of the day.
No.
Right, right. And I think, one of the things that we've talked about before, actually with regard to the Unified Development Code, but I think as long as it's got a version control on it so that we know whether a printed copy is or is not the latest, I think that's fine. Any other commissioners have comments on that? Does anybody really prefer to always get an updated printed copy if we do incremental updates through the year? No? Okay, good. Thank you. Okay. Appreciate that. No, that was a good comment. I kind of feel like we're still trying to come out of the great economic bust of '08. Things definitely have picked up, but I was interested particularly in your comment on mid-sized commercial space available for lease. I suppose it's a little too early to start talking heavily about redevelopment in the growth management plan, but certainly in this area, South Kansas City, Belton, I'm not quite as familiar with what's going on in Peculiar, but I do read their Planning and Zoning Commission notices in the journal. And Harrisonville, I know that there's a lot of development in the area, both in work and planned. Some development in Raymore. It's kind of like, if we just had a crystal ball and we knew when the North Cass Parkway area was really going to take off, or for that matter, when the 291-58 highway area was going to take off. I think the one thing that I don't recall seeing in this report, but it very well may have been there, potential annexation we've talked about. Did I miss that, Mr. Ketteret?
I don't believe there's a reference to any of the annexation work within this report. So I don't believe it's included in this report.
Okay. I just throw that out as food for thought. I kind of feel like, you know, that certainly may be premature. It's something that I think Commission is very interested in. Oh, thank you. I kind of thought I might have seen it and missed it. Page 6, about 2/3 of the way down. So we did touch on that. That's good. Yeah, thank you. Any other comments? Seems like this would be a good time if you want to take your 40-year look going forward and do a little bit of what ifing or, oh, I wish. This would be a good time to voice it, I think.
One question, if I may.
Yes, of course.
This is the first annual review report that we have done, so I want to make sure if the report, did the report meet the needs or your expectations for what you thought should have been included in the report? Are there omissions, something that we could have added to the report? Just as a guide for what we do the next years, we want to make sure we are presenting the information that you,
Right.
would expect.
I do have a suspicion, Mr. Cataract, since the GMP just went through a major update, I guess I would have been a little bit surprised if we had just ripped it to pieces. So I think, well, I wouldn't have been shocked, but I think the fact that it's a pretty fresh product, clearly we haven't run into anything that is a big concern. I think it's serving us well. We certainly refer to it in a lot of cases. So I would sort of expect, and again, depending on how the economy turns, but I would expect that we might have more to update or more to add in a year. But personally, I'm very satisfied. I think this is the right level of detail. It's very well written, and I think it ties in real nicely with the plans. That's just my opinion. Anyone else?
I have another question.
Yeah, of course, Commissioner Meisky.
Of
We left
course.
you all by yourself down there. But
Yeah, I'm feeling lonely.
that's all right.
In the growth management plan, it says each year the Planning and Zoning Commission shall complete a review of the growth management plan. Is that month specific, or is that any time throughout the year, or?
The plan identified that the annual review and report should be completed by April 1st of each year. So the idea would be to have the report completed around April 1st, make it available to the public during the month of
Okay.
April.
All right.
And typically your first meeting in May each year is when we would do this
Okay.
hearing.
Yeah, I kind of feel like summer is not the best time, and well, actually sometimes late in the year is also not a good time. Seems like a lot of things transition, holidays. So really spring or fall, and this seems to be as good a time as any.
Okay, I'm done.
You sure? I'll give you another opportunity if you want. Any other comments? Mr. Zur, you might advise, would this be an appropriate time for commission to make a motion, for instance, recommending that we replace the sewer allocation map in the GMP and adopt the 2014 annual review and report?
I would absolutely make that
Yeah.
I would suggest that it would be an ideal time for the commission members to have that motion.
We've got empty seats up here, Commissioner Zur.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Anderson.
Apologies for my voice,
Yeah.
allergy season.
Yeah, we appreciate your presence.
No worries. We'll recommend that we approve to replace the March 19, 2013 sewer allocation map with a new map dated May 6, 2014, as presented.
Second.
Ah,
Thank you, I said
All
I was
right.
done.
I heard Commissioner Crane second, thank you.
That was Burke, Commissioner.
So if I can rephrase this adequately, a motion by Commissioner Anderson, second by Commissioner Crane.
Nope, Burke.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I beg your pardon. I knew it was on the left ear. That was as close as we got. Thank you, gentlemen. Credit or blame where due. So motion by Commissioner Anderson, second by Commissioner Burke to approve the 2014 annual review and report regarding the growth management plan and replace the March 19th, 2013 sewer allocation map with the new map dated May 6, 2014. Mr. Zer?
I'm just making sure that was Mr. Anderson's recommendation there. I guess I only caught the last bit of it I apologize, all I heard was the adoption of the map into it.
I did, so just for clarification, was that before us to approve the
Right.
growth management plan?
If that is what
I-
your motion was.
I did actually hear the word approve, and then we moved right on.
I apologize, and I
Okay.
am butting my nose in where I shouldn't be.
No,
I just
you're
wanna make sure it was
absolutely-
approval with adoption, not just the incorporation of the map
Yes,
into it.
approval with adoption.
Yes.
You're absolutely doing the right thing. I appreciate you keeping an eye on us. And so Commissioner Burke, that sound right?
Yes, do we need to reference the case number on this or not?
To me, it's clear.
Okay.
Mr. Zer, is that,
We tend to, but if everyone is understanding that it is
Yeah.
case number 14013 that you're voting on.
Yep.
The beauty of as presented.
all right. Is there any further discussion on case 14013, GMP annual review and report? No? All those in favor of the motion to approve with the replacement of sewer allocation map, raise a hand, please. 5, 6, 7. In favor, none opposed, no abstentions. And Mr. Zer, if you would like to give us the city council report, we would like to hear it.
I'm happy to provide the city council report for the Monday, April 28th, 2014 city council meeting. Obviously, and we'll always invite Mr. Carteret and the mayor to chime in if anything I present is incorrect, inaccurate, or otherwise need further clarification. At the city council meeting on Monday, April 28th, Joe Willard, who is out of the country for the time being, we had George Kapke come in and sit throughout the city council meeting. I would note that at the top of his agenda here, he has even noted that everyone was nice to him. So very glad to see that everyone was nice to George when he came down. He noted a couple of interesting cases or cases that have come before the Planning Commission that he wanted me to provide for you here. Each one of them have been approved and accepted by the City Council. First was a rezoning of the Foxwood Plaza Lot 1. Jeff Myers, with a representative of Foxwood Plaza LLC, requesting to reclassify the zoning of 21,889 square feet of land located at the east side of Mott Drive, south of Foxwood Drive, from R3A Multiple Family Residential District to PUD Planned Unit Development District. That was originally heard by you all on the April 1st, 2014, and approved unanimously 6-0. Thereafter, there was also a final plat approval for the same property at Foxwood Plaza Lot 1, again approved by you on April 1st, 2014 by a vote of 6-0. Those were both approved as a second reading, and I believe unanimously voted to approve at that one. The only other item that was, two other items. The first one is Fox Ridge Drive. Mr. Kapke thought it might be important for you guys to know that the Granada Drive to 58 Highway, the city council and the city staff presented safety concerns regarding traffic on Fox Ridge Drive between Creekmore Development entrance and 58 Highway. Recommended the northbound and southbound Fox Ridge between Granada Drive and 58 Highway be posted as no parking. So an ordinance has been prepared accordingly for that. And last but not least, we have the action by the council for the governing body pursuant to governing body members on Planning and Zoning Commission. And according to section 465.020 of the city code, the city council is able to designate whether or not it shall have a member serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the mayor shall also designate if he chooses to serve on the member as a member of the commission to serve for a term of 1 year. Our fine mayor has indicated his willingness to continue on his service, and I don't believe any council members will be serving in that capacity. So we're welcoming the mayor back for another year, one year round. That is all I have from the city council report.
Thank you, Mr. Zur. Anything to add? No? Okay. Mr. Carteret, then, if you would give us the staff report and planning pipeline, please.
Yes, sir, thank you. And I did not have the April report available in your packet that was distributed to you, but I did distribute that report this evening at your desk.
Yep, thank you.
Want to briefly go through that. One item to note in our building permit activity, last year we did have at least the highest number of permits issued since the housing collapse in 2007. We issued 110 total single-family permits last year. This year, you'll note, at least through April, we're about half of what we were at last year. So it is a concern. You know, we have a lot of homes under construction right now. They do seem to come in waves as far as the number of permits. In April, you'll see we only issued 3, so that was a very slow month. Where in May, here on May 6th, we've already issued 3, and we have another, I believe, 7 or 8 that we're currently reviewing. So it's hard to know where we'll end up, but at least at this point, through 4 months, we are half of what we were at last year. One other note regarding building activity, if you on page 3, one of the things that we have tracked for a number of years now are the total number of homes under construction, the total number of available lots, of undeveloped lots available for new homes, and then of course the total number of dwelling units. The number I try to monitor the most is the total number of undeveloped lots. And that number at one point had been close to 1,200 lots that we had available. These are lots that somebody could come in today and obtain a building permit on. If you're issuing 110 permits a year, you've had 1,200 lots, you have quite a supply. You'll see that number, I mean, it's progressively has been going down. It's all the way down to 936. The one thing to note with that number is right now the only development that is active with new phases creating new lots is Creekmore. So Creekmore has a lot of home construction going on, but they're also adding undeveloped lots to the total. But the good news is, again, overall, the total number of lots available is decreasing. And we are seeing, again, the building permits that we're issuing are spread out throughout the community.
Good.
A few months ago, we had a builder come to city council that requested an extension to the Alexander Creek preliminary plat, and this builder had bought all the lots and bought the undeveloped land. He has come in recently. I don't know the total number of permits he's going to be pulling, but he is starting very active construction on that subdivision. You know, Eagle Glen continues to build, Timber Trails. We have development occurring in many of our subdivisions throughout the city, so it's good to see that overall number of lots decrease, but until that number, you know, drops even more significantly, I do not see any other developments coming in for new subdivision phases. Again, the exception being Creekmore. With that number of lots available, I don't know that developers would be able to get loans to create more lots when we have all these already available. So it's something to monitor. We continue to watch that. As far as the upcoming meetings, I want to go over that schedule. The City Council meeting coming up on May 12th has a couple of items of interest on their agenda. One of the items will be the first reading of the 19th Amendment to the UDC regarding street buffers. You had your public hearing back on April 15th regarding that item, and we have duly notified for the public hearing for that item on May 12th. We'll also have the first reading of a voluntary annexation petition. This is for right-of-way of Hubach Hill Road between Southwood Estates and the eastern boundary of the city. So this would basically include the entire Hubach Hill Road segment within the city limits. I note that currently we do not have any items for the May 20th Planning and Zoning Commission, so would want direction from the commission regarding that meeting, whether we need to meet. I don't have any business to present to you that evening. I do note that your next meeting on June 3rd, you'll see we have 3 items scheduled for that meeting. We do our UDC annual review in June of each year, and we have 2 items for consideration regarding the Ridgeway Villas at the Legends project. Ridgeway Villas is a proposed development on land that is to the south of Culver's. So it was the Legends townhomes. We currently have, I believe, about 36 townhome units that were built a number of years ago, but the remaining land has been left undeveloped since probably about the 2007 timeframe. There is a new owner came in and bought the property, and they're proposing to do a townhome project that's very similar to what you see out there, but it's changing names to be known as the Ridgeway Villas. But they need to do in essence, a replat. They need to reconfigure some lot lines, and then they'll also be submitting a site plan because the townhome units are slightly different than what we had previously approved. And I wanted to make sure that we were aware of what exactly was being built out in that project. There's going to be a total of 56 units constructed. They'll all be constructed at the same time, so they plan on coming in and doing all the units. And that is a project that's scheduled for 2014. But these are kind of the last steps necessary to get that project moving forward. Then currently for June 17th, I don't have any items for the Planning Commission meeting, but we're not past the filing deadline yet, so we'll leave that meeting open, but I would seek direction for your May 20th meeting and whether we need to meet or just cancel that meeting and know that we're going to be meeting on June 3rd.
Right. Do any of the commission members have anything that they'd like to propose for that May 20th meeting? Mayor Kirkhoff?
Well, not to propose anything, but to just comment that I will not be available on that date.
So you've already made a decision on that, or it's been made for you. Thank you. Any other commissioners have anything that they'd like to address on May 20th?
I won't be on that day either. I'll be in
Okay.
Florida.
Well, that would bring us down to a bare quorum. I would certainly propose that we cancel the May 20th Planning and Zoning Commission and resume business on June 3rd then, unless any of the commissioners have any objections. Is that good? No objections? Okay, Mr. Carteret, we have given you direction.
Thank you.
We will not meet on May 20th. We'll plan to meet again on June 3rd and see what's going forward from there.
Very good, thank you, sir. The only other item I have is just a brief report. Commissioner Crane can add to this.
Oh, right.
As we both did attend the American Planning Association conference a week ago, that was held in Atlanta. It was a 5-day conference, so they have sessions all 5 days of the conference. They also do a number of mobile workshops that you can sign up for. So you either can attend a session within the conference center itself or sign up for one of the mobile workshops that cover a myriad of topics, whatever topic really that you would have an interest in. You would have a mobile workshop where a group would go out and whether it's looking at a stream restoration project or a road project, whatever it might be, a building design, architecture review, solar field, whatever it might be. My sessions this year were the ones that were contained in the classroom, if you would. I didn't go out on any of the mobile workshops, But I can say that it was the most intense conference in that it covered the entire 5 days. So they had more sessions available this year than they've ever had. I don't know the final count of participants, but I know there were over 5,000 people registered for this conference.
How does that compare with prior annual?
It's a little bit, it's higher than
So,
normal.
a
And I
lot
think
of
that's
interest. Okay.
Economy driven.
Yeah, I suspected.
You do have a fair multitude of students that do attend these, students going for certain, whether it's a class project or looking for, jobs, internships. They have job fairs as part of the conference. They have, of course, great networking opportunities. So you do see a lot of students. Of course, the registration rate for students is quite low, so they encourage students to go to the conferences. But a lot of excellent sessions. Just as far as topics that I attended, dealt with, complete streets is something that the city has looked at and talked about. So I was looking at some of the complete street and access management sessions. They had probably the best session that I went to dealt with regulated uses, and it specifically uses payday loans and tattoo parlors and pawn shops and the gold, the we buy gold. Facilities that are termed regulated because they're specific enough where a community can look to place regulations upon that type of commercial use. Adult bookstores would be another one. The one thing that I came away with that very happy with is working through our legal department. We have codes in place for all of these items. We, as a community, have done very well in that area. And the other area that I think we've done very well, I attended a couple sessions regarding renewable energy, solar energy. And again, we are above the curve in that particular area on how we have handled that. But it's good to go through these sessions to make sure you're current with, what the law is and what other communities are doing.
Just curious, anything about cell towers specifically?
No, there wasn't anything that I saw
Right.
specific
Okay.
to that topic. So there was a lot on affordable housing law. I thought that was a particularly interesting topic to get some information on senior housing and housing law in general. A session specifically on the decline of non-residential real estate. So this is the general, what we're seeing is a decline in commercial development and office development specifically, office park developments. So a lot of good information on that. A couple of sessions on managing planning departments.
Was that decline in commercial development, did anyone attribute that to the internet or? not?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Certainly just the buyers not, the buyers being able to do more from home. And
Right.
so it's business at the niche type, if you would, the Best Buys of the world and others that have really suffered through the
Well, and there's telecommuting, work from home.
work from home.
Amazing how fast some of those changes have come upon us.
Indeed. Then just to kind of close out, there was some discussion about collaboration between cities trying to, do more with less and working with their neighboring cities on multitude of items. Things that struck me was sharing of building inspection, code enforcement services, animal control services, things of that nature. Of course, the usual, the dispatch, consolidation of dispatch facilities, things of that nature. And then the last topic was on how communities use the development approval process as an economic development tool. So communities try, you're doing everything because you're competing with all of your neighbors. So how can you make it easier for a developer to get through the process? Time is money. We always hear it, and we always try to expedite our review process. And so just some pointers that I gained on that particular area. One of the best things that we have done as a community is to have our 2 P&Z meetings a month. We may cancel a meeting occasionally, but to have that ability every 2 weeks to have a commission meeting or every 2 weeks to have a council meeting is very valuable. We've done that for, 10 plus years, but it's a very good tool. And then just some of the things we're trying to consolidate our process. We're doing more actions online. you'll hear a little bit more about this in the coming months, but being able to do permits over online where you won't even have to come into City Hall. Again, it's trying to make things, more expeditious for everyone. So it's something that we're going to. But generally, those are the sessions that I went to that I thought were of interest. I won't get into any more detail than that, but just give you a quick overview. And I only came across Commissioner Crane. I think we shared one particular session. But other than that, you don't see a lot of
So
each other.
in 5,000 people, it's easy to lose track of each other.
You do lose
isn't it?
track. And we were both there, and we may have crossed paths and I didn't know it, but I did see you in the one session.
Well, you saw each other on the plane out and coming back, I guess. Commissioner Crane?
Well, I second everything Jim said. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. They had one day that was for commissioners, and they had, several presentations. It started off with a breakfast that morning. I sat at the table with the Lawrence, Kansas commissioner. The Olathe commissioner was at the table right next to us. It was interesting that Boulder, Colorado sent 8 commissioners.
Mind-boggling.
Since I represent Ward 4, which is kind of the more rural ward in town, I kind of focus my attention on more really far out development. Jim mentioned that there were a lot of students there. There were actually a lot of people from other countries there too.
Really?
I sat and talked to a couple of youngsters that were from a suburb of Seoul, Korea. One young lady from Vancouver gave the presentation on urban agriculture, which was really good. Councilman Moorhead would have appreciated the chickens, and it was unbelievable. I mean, her presentation was really good. She was showing what was going on in Vancouver and what they were taking in downtown Vancouver and taking unused land and stuff and building big vegetable fields in there and stuff. So that was real interesting. I wanted to go on one of the mobile deals, but it was on Wednesday, and it didn't get over until our plane was supposed to leave, which, had we known, I could have gone, got back, and still been waiting for the plane.
Not worth taking a chance.
But luckily, that Sunday morning, I sat down, and another gentleman came and sat down beside me, and I could hear him grousing about the Wi-Fi. He goes, "Do you know anything about Wi-Fi?" So I said, "Yeah, here, I'll help you get it." I said, "First of all, don't expect too much because the Wi-Fi is terrible."
Oh.
But so I got him on, and I got to talking to him and all. And I'll be darned if it wasn't the guy that was going to do that mobile workshop. The name of it was Managing Growth in the Urban Fringe. So although I didn't get to go to it on Wednesday, I sat there, I skipped my next deal, which didn't seem too interesting, but and sat and talked to him. And he was from Clear Lake, Minnesota, which is a small town in Minnesota. And so I kind of gleaned some knowledge from him on things. Councilmember Hubach got a hold of me, and she's wanting me to come and kind of give a little review to the city council, and that's fine with me. And I kind of told her, what all we did. And I said, I did most of the rural stuff, and I went to one which was, I think it was managing or keeping the rural feel through street design. And Charlene sat back to me and she goes, "How can you keep the rural feel through street design?" I said, "Well, Charlene, that's the exact same question I had."
Grassy
And I said,
median down
and
the
they
middle.
didn't cover anything in the deal about how to keep the rural feel through street design. I said, so I've sat and pondered it, and I finally figured it out. It's signage. And so I sent her a sign at cattle crossing. So Charlene got a kick out of that and related to me about how the dairy cattle used to go across 58 down on Franklin Street and all, and she got quite a kick out of it. But I mean, if if the council really wants me to do it, and if you guys don't mind, I mean, I'll go talk to him for 5 or 10 minutes, because I think, you know, sending a commissioner is really a good idea. It really, you learn some things, and there's some bad I had 2 in a great big huge auditorium, and I literally could not understand a word that they were saying up there. Now, part of that's my old age and my hearing loss, but still, you know, you learn a lot of things and you meet a lot of people, and I was going around meeting a lot of people and talking to them, and you get a whole new perspective on what's going on the outside. And like I said before, you get a real big appreciation for the city of Raymore and our staff and how everybody does things, how polite everybody is. And I mean, I came back, Jim and I, what time did you get home? You got home at 2 o'clock. Well,
AM.
I got home before you did. I got home at 10 to 2.
Wow.
And you live in Lee Summit, you have a shorter drive. But I sat and talked to my wife till 3:30 in the morning, just telling her,
Oh.
you know,
I'm sure she enjoyed that.
griping a little bit about the plane flight, but I was also telling her, you know, a lot of what went on and how much I really enjoyed it and gained knowledge from it.
Great. Well, I'm certainly glad you were able to make the time to go, because I do agree with you. I think it's important for the commission to
After
take
that plane
advantage of
flight,
that.
it's the last time I go out of town.
Well, that just means next year it's somebody else's turn.
I'm done traveling for life.
Be planning ahead, folks. Next year it can be someone else's turn, but I do think it's very important that commission take advantage of those opportunities, and so we certainly appreciate that you were able to attend. And as we hear cases upcoming and you can share some experience with us that you gained, that'll be very much appreciated. Yeah. So thank you. Let's see, Mr. Cataret, are we still on planning pipeline, or does that pretty well wrap it up?
I don't have anything else, sir.
Okay, I'll open the floor for public comment, and seeing none, open the floor for commission member comment. Commissioner Burke, if you don't mind, I'll just start with you.
No comment.
Thank you. Commissioner Anderson.
No comment, thank you.
Commissioner Crane, did you have anything else to add?
I've already said my piece.
Thank you. Commissioner Meiske.
No comment.
Commissioner Pfizer.
No comment.
And Mayor Kirkhoff.
So the balance of the time is mine then?
It's all, the floor is all yours.
I was just going to say, I'm back for another year. I thoroughly enjoy the work that is done by this commission. And the next event is in Seattle, did you say? Yes. So if somebody's wanting to travel to Seattle, so, oh, okay. And that's all I
Commissioner
got.
Zur, okay. First, you've got to move to Raymore. We have 900 some lots available for you to
For you to
choose
build
from.
on.
Thank you. Mr. Eanes, you were awfully quiet this evening, but we appreciate you being here. Mr. Zur, Mrs. Johnson, nice to have you back. And Mr. Cataret, thank you very much. I know that's a strain on you, traveling and trying to keep things going back here at the same time. We certainly appreciate your efforts as well. I don't believe I have anything else, so I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Okay, who was that? Commissioner Crane this time.
I
Okay.
second.
Any seconds? Oh, okay. So motion by Commissioner Crane, second by Commissioner Meiske to adjourn. All those in favor, raise a hand, please. 1, 2, 3. It should be, I was going to say, it should be 7 in favor, none opposed, no abstentions. And thank you.
Do you want to talk to the council? I can get you on the Monday meeting.
I mean, if you guys are like, you know, if you want to, I will save 5 or 10 minutes for the sun. If not, I'll just stay at home. Charlene seemed to want it, and I'm close.